I'm a hair mineral analysis expert. I have a background in functional medicine, and I educate people using HTMA testing to maximize health, erase debilitating symptoms, and gain energy. I'm a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, and I'm constantly searching for high-performance pros from all over the world to bring you this human optimization podcast. My name is Lisa Pitel-Killah. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Pitel-Killah, and I have here with me today Dr. Van Thielen. And so his achievements are too long for even me to go through, or else we'd be talking about it the entire podcast. But I want to make an introduction, of course. And so he is a medical director at ClariGenZ Health, an innovative medical company with a new pill providing all the benefits of Adderall, which we're going to talk about today, without any of the harmful side effects, which is pretty amazing. He's also a treating physician for Boston Neuro Pain and Psych centers, helping tens of thousands of patients with chronic pain and mental health conditions. And I want to say one more thing, because when I read this, I was so intrigued by it. And, I know that just as an individual, giving back to the community is so important. So I wanted to share this because one of the things that Dr. Mike does, he has actually managed to start funding one of the paralyzed veterans in urgent need of stem cell therapy. How amazing is that? Welcome to the podcast.
Well, welcome. Thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm excited about the talk.
Excellent. Yeah, my pleasure. We have so much to talk about. We were talking about world championships. You've worked with the Belgian Olympic swim team. You work with professional athletes, Olympians, and have so much to share. So I want to dig into that. I want to dig into some fun topics. And then I also want to share some of the books that you've written that I think people would really be interested in jumping into if they don't know about them already. So give us a little background on you. We always want to dig a little more into the individual, because obviously there's a place you started and now here we are today. So tell us give us the Coles notes on that.
Yeah, long story short, I grew up in Belgium. Most people probably can hear an accent. Me and my brother and my mom. So my mom had to work very hard to provide for me and my brother. She did a great job. And I proceeded to go on to the University of Brussels. I was into sports, so I decided to do physical education, which was fun. But what are you going to do with that degree? So after physical education, I entered in the physical therapy program. And that's actually how I came to the United States. I was traveling with the Belgian Olympic swim team in preparation for the Olympic Games in Atlanta in 1996. And at the time, they happened to be short of therapists in the United States. They were recruiting from all over the world. So 2 years later, in 1997, I was able to come to the United States. I saved $400, put my jeans on, filled my backpack up, and just lived the American dream. Needless to say, I got knocked down many times. I never had a coach or a mentor, especially not in business. But my motto quickly became, I never lose, I win or I learn. So came in as a therapist, but got interested very quickly in many other health, modalities, if you will. I decided to go back to school to the Florida College of Integrative Medicine, got my license in acupuncture, homeopathy, Chinese herbal medicine, and the list goes on. Amazing. And then after treating probably another 1,000 patients, I got a little bit frustrated because these quote-unquote alternative modalities, which they're really not, they're the conventional ones, but that's another topic. They are obviously less harmful and less invasive than conventional medicine, meaning drugs, injections, and surgeries. But I really didn't get the long-lasting results I was looking for either. So that's when I decided I had to go back to basics, and I got my PhD in holistic nutrition. But I also really decided to look at animals in the wild, because Mother Nature never lies. And by combining those two, I really got confident helping anybody regain control of their health, optimize their health, or today, biohack, meaning upgrade their body, their mind, and their life, objectively reversing biological age. And so since then, I've been doing a lot of motivational speaking. I'm at book number 8 right now. I speak at biohacking congresses, conventions. I have a TED Talk coming up on August the 12th. So I'm trying to spread the word and help people, not just with their health, but also with their business and their personal life. Because at this point in my life, it took me a while to get where I am, but I feel I would be a great mentor in showing the pitfalls and making people accountable to realize their goals and their dreams.
Amazing. And yes, and to be able to share where you've come from to now and all that knowledge that people can benefit from, I think that is absolutely fantastic, and it's invaluable, right? And so let's talk about, let's just mention, and again, we may dig into one or two of these, but we've got The Invisible Threat EMR, which is one of your books, right? We've
It's a
got
bestseller on Amazon. Yeah.
yeah, Stem Cells 101, that's another one. Walking the Talk, love that title, right? And talking about, you came here literally with a backpack and $400. That is
Correct.
unbelievable,
Yeah.
right?
That's all I had.
Be lean, health for life, fibromyalgia, optimize your immune system. So many books that have been published that are bestsellers and available out there. If you guys haven't heard of those, we'll definitely have those in the description so that you can check those out if one of those resonates with you, or if you're interested in what the content is. And so I also really resonated with when you said, because this really is a mantra, I feel like, for a lot of business owners, a lot of times, right? Owning a business isn't easy. When you said, I either win or I learn. That is 100% true. We don't fail, we just try. And then we learn from whatever it was, if it didn't work out the way we wanted, and we change it, right?
Yeah.
And
Correct.
so that
It's
is
a mindset.
that is amazing mental capacity to be able to come to that level and understanding, because a lot of people don't do that. And then one of the other things you mentioned was biohacking. So that's obviously huge, right? Everybody wants to reverse aging and they want everything to go backwards. So what does biohacking mean to you? Like, tell us
Well,
what
yeah,
that
it's a
means to
very
you.
broad, amorphous term that basically, can mean a lot of things. But in my dictionary, just basically means upgrading your body, your mind, and your life. When it comes to health, it means objectively reversing your biological age. Now, a lot of people think that, buying a biohacking technology or consuming biohacking compounds or those types of things will have a drastic effect on your biological age, but it all depends. When I work with people on their health and we want to biohack, first of all, we got to see where they are right now. And unfortunately, the majority of people still are, what I call below normal. So they either have pain, they're overweight, or they're diagnosed with one or another medical condition. So step number one, we need to eradicate that pain. We need to get rid of those medical conditions and get back to quote unquote normal. Only then can we start working on incorporating lifestyle modifications to get to optimal health, which means we need to be vital, strong, and in control of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And then the last step, basically, only when we're in optimal health could we maximize the benefits of biohacking, right? So we got to put people where they are and integrate the therapies, modalities, and strategies based on where they are and what the next step is before we actually can benefit from that biohacking.
100%. It's almost like prepping the body and the mind for what's next.
People, especially here, like to skip the foundations, right? We need to build that foundation. There's no shortcut. There is no magic pill. Some pills can be magic, but again, we got to get the foundation in order to benefit from that magic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk about when we think about productivity, I feel like nowadays we are all short on time, right? Everybody's running around and they're trying to find more time. And you hear people say, oh, I wish I had another 8 hours in every day. I might be able to get done what's on my to-do list. And so how do you kind of take that productivity to the next level to be able to manage that?
Well, I have a lot of people that say exactly what you just said, but we all have the same amount of time. Unfortunately, most people waste their time a lot of hours during the day and they don't even realize it, right? So it's about getting in control of your life. It's about organizing your life. But I developed a method not too long ago in my latest book called the IZOD method. IZOD stands for In the Zone on Demand. And so the first part of that when I help clients is we need to really make sure they're living their purpose. Some people are not living their purpose, they know. Other people are barely tapping into it. And so first with my mentees, I really got to make sure they're living their purpose, because without that passion, without that fire, without knowing what your superpowers are, you're never going to be performing at your highest potential. So first, purpose. Once we establish that purpose, we need to get organized. We need to get in control of our agenda, our calendar. We need to make a plan. What are our dreams? What are our goals? What are the stepping stones towards those? What are the people, or who are the people that we have to surround ourselves with? Because we don't want to work and waste time on working on our weaknesses. We got to continue to work on our strengths. However, we need to know our weaknesses so we can hire the people or surround ourselves with people that are strong where we are weak. So what is the team that we need? And we've both in sports. So a good analogy is the 110-meter hurdles for men at the Olympics or the 100 meters for women, because think about it, they're not by themselves. They got a running coach, they got a strength coach, they got probably a nutritionist, then they got a mental, a coach, and then they got their family to support them, and the list goes on. So you need that team. Without the team, you're not going to get there. And then you need a deadline and a goal and a dream. Gold, world record at the Olympic Games in a world record time, for example. So now we got to set those daily stepping stones and take incremental steps toward that big goal. Most people's goals are not big enough because they're afraid. But if you're not scary about your dreams and goals, they're not big enough. But once you have that big, scary goal, we don't want to be overwhelmed. So we're just going to have to break it down in small incremental steps and implement those each and every day, right? So it's about a plan, a strategy, a team. And then really, once you're focused and you know where you're going, you would be surprised on how many hours per day we are doing useless stuff, whether it's on social media, whether it's doing 2 1-hour meetings. I mean, who cannot make a decision on anything within 15 minutes? Why do the meetings need to be 1 hour, right? Watching Netflix. And so many times we can free up far more than 1 hour a day. And then we're going to dedicate that time to working on somebody's superpowers, because often people have a job, they have responsibilities, so they can't just drop their job and their family to go in a different direction. But we easily can transition into that by freeing up that valuable time. So to answer your question, there's plenty of time, but we got to stay focused on what our goals and dreams are. We got to say no to people that call or ask you to help on certain projects. If those projects do not serve us, unfortunately, we're going to have to be a little bit tougher with our friends, family, and colleagues and say no, because we have a clear path, to where we want to be. So we need to take control of our life, our agenda, our plan, our dreams. Control creates clarity. Clarity omits stress, and we can stay productive and focused.
Amazing. And you're right. Again, I always want to kind of take something that resonates and pull it down, because so many people discount or shoot for the low end of a goal when it could be so much more, but because they're uncomfortable or because they're scared. And then what happens is, and I find that this happens quite often, is you'll find that people don't plan those baby steps, the daily practices to be able to get to that long-term goal. They try and get there right away, or they look at it and go, oh, it's way too big, it's overwhelming, and then they back off completely and don't do anything. Right? It's almost like frozen syndrome, where it's like, no, I'm frozen right where I am. I can't do anything. Right?
Yeah, frozen syndrome, false core beliefs, always thinking the negative. I can't do it, versus taking that little step each day. And those steps are easy to accomplish. So then you feel that fulfillment. And it's amazing, if you do something every day, how quickly you actually took a big step towards that goal or dream, right?
Yeah, it happens so fast you don't even realize it. And yet so many people, have that step back. And, one of the things too, and when we talk about distractions, so you're talking about clarity, you're talking about focus, we have so many distractions, right? We talked about social media, Netflix. And so how do you find that kind of plays into some of the people that you're working with or that you're mentoring or teaching? How do you get them away from those types of things and back into their focus? What types of things do you do to be able to?
Yeah, many examples, but you're correct. I work with people with ADHD, anxiety, depression, and I also work with top athletes. So I got the whole range. But when it comes to focus, obviously, apparently, the average person is bombarded with over 14,000 digital messages per day. And our brain is just not sophisticated enough to organize that chaos. So we need to take control of that, right? We need to have a plan. We need to be organized, number one. Number two, I think this first step is education, because they just complain they can't focus, but they don't know why. And so again, we got to look at somebody's life and say, okay, we need to educate you about dopamine overload, right? Because we all know about the 5 intelligence hormones: dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and serotonin. And when they are in balance and when they are in optimal range, that's when we actually in the zone, and nothing can distract us. We win, we write our best piece of, our best book or the best piece of music, whatever it is that you do. That's when you say, oh my God, I was in the zone. And many of us get there by chance, but that's what I do, is I teach people to get there on demand and turn that switch on and off whenever they want to. And so, well, the first thing I have to explain is dopamine overload, because when dopamine is out of balance, that's when we get symptoms such as brain fog, inability to focus. Attention span apparently today is an average of 6 seconds. So we lost many of your listeners, right?
Yeah, that's true. They're gone.
Procrastination, fidgeting, not be able to get started, not finishing homework, and all those types of things. But so the first step, I think, is education, understanding that there's a dopamine overload, because dopamine is the reward hormone. It's like if your brain squirts a little dopamine, it feels like you get a pat on your back. So unconsciously, we seek for that. We seek for that in man-made foods like sugary drinks, sugary food, coffee, energy drinks. And then, like you said, now we have the social media. So when somebody hearts your Instagram or likes your comment, unconsciously, we are going to seek for more dopamine. And now we suddenly spend a few hours on social media while we only should have been on there 5 minutes, right? So when people realize why they're in a brain fog and why they can't focus, now we have a plan. We got to reduce that dopamine. So we may have to upgrade the diet. And certainly we need to get in control of social media versus vice versa, the social media being control of you. And then we can implement certain tips and strategies, because it's almost unbelievable that not just kids that go to school, but also adults, they do their projects in their living room or at work, but there's so many interruptions. So first of all, rule number 1, a designated area at the house or the office. And then when you go into that area, let people know not to be disturbed. And then we got the biggest distraction in our life, which is our cell phone. Well, people need to learn that this is a great tool, but use it when you need information from somebody else, or you need to look something up that you really need. Otherwise, you put it on airplane mode, especially when you're working, because you don't want to be the subject of other people's needs at that point. And then you have techniques like the Pomodoro technique. It's a technique that most people know. So that's always a good example. It's a technique that says, okay, you're going to go sit in a designated area, no distractions, phone off, even phone in another room. And you're going to really, only you have is a timer. You're going to work 20 or 25 minutes. You set the timer. When the timer goes off, you go away and you do something else and chill for 5 minutes. Not 4 minutes 59, not 5:01, and you come back and you repeat that cycle 4 or 5 times. Works great for some people, not necessarily for others. So there's very simple tips and strategies to put in place to produce or be productive again. But I believe it's about education, then helping them with certain tips and strategies, see what works. And most of all, again, go back to that purpose. If there's no reason for them to be productive, if they don't have a drive, a passion, a fire, not much is going to happen.
100%.
When we look at top athletes, my best examples are always Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. You can look at any game they ever played, thousands of them, and they're always in the zone. That doesn't mean they always win, because they're teammates, but they really never have a bad game, even though when they're sick or have a high fever, they still make that last shot. And that's because they're in the zone. And you would say, well, what about the other athletes? Well, they're millionaires too. They're also playing in the NFL, the NBA, or they play the highest level of golf. But the difference always is between the years, right? So many times people would say, oh, he had an off day or he had an off game. So one game they play good and the other day they came bad. But their capabilities didn't diminish overnight. Their talents didn't diminish. Their strength, their skills, nothing changed except what's in between their ears, right? And so, the top of the top, they can turn that on and on demand. And other people, even other top athletes, kind of rely on that by chance. And so, and that goes back to the distractions that you talked about, because when somebody has a bad game, maybe they're distracted because they got in an argument just before the game with their significant other, or something happened with the kids, or there's a financial situation going on and they can't get into that zone. But therefore, you need to learn techniques, and I call them power routines, because they're a little bit different for everybody. Things that work for you that you can rely on to always be in the zone. And a lot of that has to do with mindset, of course, because we focus too much on the body when we talk about health, and not enough on the mind, which controls the body and creates your future.
I agree. And so, I'm curious about, so interesting, because we and then I want to get into a little bit of visualization, because I think that's a big part. I use that quite often. But
Sure.
What percentage would you say just between mental and physical when we're accomplishing something? You talked about being in the zone and, the body being the same. Nothing's really changed there. When someone has a great game versus a not great game, how big of a percentage is that for mindset only?
Yeah, well, if you ask that question to coaches, they always answer between 50 and 90%. But research really shows it's 100%. Like I said, nothing changes from yesterday to today when it comes to their skills or their talents. I mean, they already played a million games. They're in the NBA, NFL, or the LPGA Tour. So the only change is between the ears, and at that level, that's the only difference between winning and losing. It's just that inch slower, that anticipation. That's a fraction of a second faster, because when you're in the zone, you anticipate faster. There's no distractions. You're more concentrated and focused, and therefore you react just that hundredths of a second faster.
Which could be the difference between winning and losing.
Especially at that level. Yeah.
100%. And so I find it interesting. And so let's touch a little. And again, this is just something that I have utilized in the past when I've been training and trying to perfect things, is visualization techniques, right?
Yes.
Using that visualization.
It's part of my evening power routine, and it's not even have to do with sport, because your mind is the blueprint, right? And people need to realize that, a belief is nothing but a thought that we keep thinking. And if you look at a belief that way, you can change what you're thinking and therefore change your belief system. And so we need to eliminate false core beliefs. Oh, I can't break a world record, or I can't make $1 million before the end of the year, or whatever it is, or I can't find the love of my life. First of all, we need to eliminate those called for false core beliefs and start changing our thought pattern, right? The next thing we need to do is we need to, really start to be able to manage or even control our emotions and our feelings. If we learn the skills to do that, we can really control our body too, because many times it's just a reaction to a certain situation, right? So we need to be able to control that. And you talk about visualization, manifestation, meditation, all those techniques are out there for us to facilitate being in control of our emotions and our mind and get into the zone. And 2 decades ago, it was very hard because it was just meditation. And people told me, Mike, you really got to meditate. And I gave it an honest effort, but it was very hard for me to clear my mind. And when you don't get results after a few tries, you usually give up, right? But today, there's no excuse, because there's so much, even technology such as brain tap, or like you said, visualization, manifestation. For me, breath work is what works best, because if I do breath work and I concentrate on my breathing, then automatically everything else, gets out of my mind, and it's the only thing I think about, and that gets me into a different brain wave or into a different state of mind. So there's many things out there, but visualization is part of my daily life. It's part of my power routine. So I usually, part of my evening routine, I visualize 2 to 3 minutes, and what I visualize is the next 24 hours, step by step. And each step, I'm going to make the healthy or the right choices. What I'm going to say in the meeting, this. What I'm going to have for lunch, this. Then I got to do this, etc. And I walk through that quickly, 24/7. What does it do for me? It makes me fall asleep much faster, because most of us are awake because our mind is going and we're thinking about, oh, tomorrow this. I already did that. I already made the right decisions. So I'm not going to be worrying while I'm sleeping. So that's my purpose of a 2-minute visualization before I go to bed as part of my power routine. But the same in sports. If you daily visualize you winning that gold medal, then that's the blueprint. I always tell people, if you 100% believe, and that's not easy to do, but when you come to when you 100% believe that you're going to accomplish something, then the universe only has one option, which is a big win. Yeah. But if there's any doubt in your mind that you're going to succeed, then the universe has two options: failure and success.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I mean, and I always find it interesting too. I think the first time I ever even learned about visualization was probably 15 years ago anyways. And I was reading about it and watching a documentary on Olympic cyclists and how they would visualize before they ever got on their bikes. And so I started using that when I was working with athletes and when I was training. And it's almost like your mind is there to sabotage you to a certain extent, right? Because you're thinking about something and I'm on the platform and I'm doing what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden I drop the bell or something happens, my hair thing falls out, whatever it is, it's a distraction.
And if you keep thinking that, it's going to happen too.
Right. But one of the cool things that I have found, and I think this is that kind of that end result, is that every time one of those things pops up, you're able to think through it, fix it, and keep going. Because then basically, once you get on the bike or whatever you're doing, whatever your sport is or whatever your day is, you've already had everything happen and you've already solved all the problems. So you've already won. Like it's over.
Correct.
Yeah. Right? It's like in my mind, I've already won. This is done now.
That's correct.
But I feel like people really don't, or I don't know if they don't, I don't think that's the right word, but I feel like they discount how important mindset really is and what it can actually do for us.
Yeah, because we're not taught in school, right? And so what I see more and more today too is when we're born, we're pushed in a certain direction. We got to go to school, we got to go to college, then we got to work for somebody till we're 65, and then there's the golden years, which never happen. Or our parents or teachers push in a certain direction, because if dad's a lawyer, they want you to go to law school. His mom's a doctor, they probably don't want you to go to med school, and nobody's asking you what your passions or fires are. And so we push in that direction, and maybe you ended up being a surgeon, and maybe you're great at it, but you don't realize you're not living your dreams or your passions. You may be good at what you do, but it may not be your passion, right? And so that also comes back to our brain, because our brain is very simple, and our brain is going to protect us from fear and failure. It's just kind of an instinct. So we need to really fight that guy that's sitting on your left shoulder, or that woman that's sitting on your left shoulder, and those voices saying don't do it. And that's why we always talk about the comfort zone, right? Yeah. When we're in the comfort zone, we are comfortable, everything's moving, and we don't want to take risks. And if we want to take a risk, or we want to get out of that comfort zone, our mind's going to do everything it can to not have you do it. Yeah. So in order for that become a skill, you need to override that mind each and every time. But even to get out of the comfort zone, I think there needs to be a reason. So we go back to purpose and passion. I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, you're not going to do it in this bubble, so you're going to have to step out of it. So first of all, again, purpose, passion. Second of all, education about the comfort zone. What can I expect when I step out of there? Well, the next zone is the fear zone. Then there's the learning zone. You need to learn new skills, and you need to surround yourself with people that have been to that next zone. And then you'll enter in that new growth zone. But now after a while, that new growth zone becomes what? Your next comfort zone. So you're going to have to continue to get out of that comfort zone. And that requires purpose, mindset, and action.
Yeah. And I always say every day, do something that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Then you get used to it.
It takes training to do things like that. Right? But the more
what's the worst that can happen? That you learn, right? You never fail. You just learn something.
Exactly. Everything is here. Everything's brought into us because of something that we need to learn and because of what we're putting out there. Yeah, I can't say enough about that. I 100% agree with you on all that. And I think it's a missing piece in a lot of people's lives, to be honest. Yep. And I think that you're right. A decade or two ago, it was all about meditation. And I'm not a great meditator either. I'm a better visualizer because I like solving problems, and my mind is rarely completely clear.
So you got to exactly find your tool or technology. And today there's so much available to everybody, to the average person, whether it's a brain tap or visualization, meditation, breath work, some guidance, binaural beats, whatever it is. something will work for you and help you out.
100%. Just keep looking if you haven't found it yet, right? And so let's go back now, because I want to talk about ClariGenZ. Tell us about that, right? You were part of the creation of that, right?
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I was during COVID, a colleague asked me to help out because they were very busy with medical marijuana, and they asked if I could help out doing screening calls. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll help out. And so I started to talk to hundreds of people every week, and they had ADHD and fear and worries and anxiety and depression and PTSD, and the list goes on. And of course, there's therapies and drugs and supplements out there, but I really found that there was a common underlying cause. And we go back to what I said. They didn't have a purpose in life. They were going through the motions day to day, working for their boss, coming home, getting the kids to soccer, then do this for the significant other. And they were running behind, putting out fires, wondering if they could pay the bills tomorrow. And so when you're in that kind of emergency situation, of course, you're going to be anxious. You're going to be worried. There's all this uncertainty. I would be depressed myself. So I think a lot of those people I helped finding their purpose. And once you find their purpose, you don't need the drugs. You don't need, the therapy psychologist anymore, because you got to go to that root cause. You're unorganized and life is controlling you versus you controlling your own life. So I think that's a major thing there. But a lot of these people with ADHD and stuff, they're on drugs like Ritalin and Wellbutrin and Adderall. And of course, with my background, I can't recommend any of those just because of the adverse reactions. And so I always look in the biohacking world for natural alternatives that have the same effects but don't have the jittery effects or don't have any short-term or long-term impacts or hazardous impact on somebody's health. And so with this particular company, they actually stumbled upon it's called biocitroid. It's a patented name, but it's basically a terpene that's extracted from a citrus fruit, actually a blood orange from the southeast region of Asia. And the company bought all the exclusive rights for the American distribution, basically. But it's a very meticulous extraction process. So the biocitroid is not very cheap, but because they bought it in bulk, it's really affordable today. But what they did is they found that biocitroid at 30 milligrams or higher is able to cross the blood-brain barrier in 30 to 45 minutes. Many other nootropics or supplements, it takes a few weeks for them to build up in your system and hopefully have a positive effect. So this works very quickly. And then once they discovered that, I was part of a team where we decided to add other nootropics or ingredients to the mix that will be very beneficial for our memory and our focus. So we added L-tyrosine, an amino acid that everybody knows helps with memory. We added phenylalanine, which obviously is another neuro agent that helps with visualization, memory, recall, and those types of things. And then the last one I think is the most important one, phosphatidyl, because phosphatidyl stimulates NGF, nerve growth factor. So it actually stimulates the formation of new brain cells, better neurotransmission, and those types of things. So those 4 key ingredients are 100% safe. There's no jittery effect. There's no, possible adverse reactions. And that's why I like it. Now, does it work for everybody? No, it doesn't. But I always tell people, give it a try. Actually, you can get free samples at trysmartpill.com. So for the listeners that want to give it a try, trysmartpill.com. The product is called Focus Plus. So I would say it's something that may facilitate you getting into that zone and focusing. But at the same time, I would not ignore the tips and strategies that you need to put in place. Reduce your dopamine overload, get a designated workplace, try the Pomodoro technique, and do those things to get organized in your life. And then when you really have an important speech to prepare for, or you have to do a speech, or you're going to go lift some weights and you want to do well, that Focus Plus may be that extra thing that you need to not be distracted in that moment.
Yeah, just that extra little, it's like the cherry on top, right? That just, when you got everything else kind of in the mix, then it's just that one thing that's going to take you to the next level. I think that's great. And so Oh, just before we wrap up, I mean, you've worked with so many professional athletes in many different genres. You've worked obviously with people with ADD, ADHD, PTSD, right? And so, what's one of the biggest takeaways from your career that you've learned, maybe that you haven't already shared, or maybe you have and you want to just share it again, with regards to just what you've done throughout, just throughout your career so far? What would be one of the things that would be a great
Well,
takeaway for you?
especially doing a lot of podcasts too now and having different audiences, I
Yeah,
think that, and that's what my latest book is called, the IZOT
yes,
method, Unleash Your Superpower.
love it.
So optimize productivity, focus, free up valuable time, live stress-free, and upgrade body and mind, right?
Mhm.
And again, the reason why I wrote that, because all the other books are health-related in some way, and this is more than health. It's purpose, it's comfort zone, it's productivity, and those types. So it's a little bit bigger, because I really felt that probably before COVID too, but during the pandemic, it became very apparent on how many people are not living their purpose and have depressed and are anxious. And again, it's not always their fault, because we're all pushed from the day we're born in a certain direction, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to just realize or try to figure out what our purpose is. And a lot of people know it, but we're barely tapping into it. We really need to unleash our superpowers. The world needs all of us. And so what I learned is, with all these different people, anywhere from heavyweight champion boxers and NFL record holders to people with ADHD,
Mhm.
they don't have any money to buy the supplements. So this big variety of people. What I learned is, no matter who you are, most of us have difficulty breaking away from our comfort zone, from our job that's not our passion, and taking the necessary steps to find fulfillment in life. Live your dreams and go there. And that's why I dedicated myself to help people unleash their superpower and mentor them and guide them and make them accountable every week. So we take those incremental steps and they can, live a fulfilling, happy life.
Love it. I love it. And so you obviously work with people to mentor them to do this. And so tell us how people can find you if that's something that they need, that they've identified for themselves, that they need a mentoring support or a coach.
Yes.
Tell us how to
So
find
I got individual programs, and I also designed a corporate program
amazing.
to help the employees or the team members engage much better in the culture. And again, improve what? Productivity, focus,
Yeah.
and upgrade body and mind, right?
Mhm.
So whether it's individual or a group, I can help. But the best place to go to is just my website, biohackingunlimited.com. My books are there, my speaking page is there, and my mentorship programs. You can look at the videos and see if one of those programs would, suit your needs.
Mhm.
And I focus on helping with your health, with your business, or with your personal life.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness. Well, I just want to thank you for being with us today and sharing. That was amazing. And guys, I really hope that you enjoyed the talk today, because
Yeah, sure.
it very, just I can't say enough about mindset, how important that is. And you brought so many things to the top of the table that, we forget about when we're talking about goals and we're talking about comfort zones and we're talking about productivity and organization. Because again, all of these distractions, right?
Yeah, they're
It's what it
there.
is. This is our daily life. This is what we deal with, but we have to take the control back so that, when you said, life's running us, we need to turn that table around and be able to save some of that time so that we're not running around and letting it kind of dictate what our day looks like, but rather the other way around.
That's correct.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for taking the time to be with us today. For
You're
those of
welcome.
you,
And I got to thank you too, because, people like me have a message, but without people like you dedicating their time, that message doesn't get out. So thank you for your time too.
well, you know what? I do this just if I can have one person that leaves or listens to an
Exactly.
episode and says, that is exactly what I needed to hear today, then I have done my job. So, and I will continue to do so to bring messages across for sure. And so for those of you watching on YouTube, we have a brand new episode every 2 weeks. Subscribe to my channel and give this episode a like. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast host, make sure you subscribe to the channel there and give this episode a like. And we will see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's show. Head over to LisaPitel-Killah.com to gain access to some amazing free resources that will help you gain energy, erase debilitating symptoms, and be the best version of you. Remember to give this podcast a like and follow me on social media at Lisa Pitel-Killah. I'm here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Until next time.